Stop waiting for a thank you that's never coming, and start looking for the knife hidden behind the handshake. Most people get eaten alive because they're playing house, while the person across from them is playing war. You think being nice is a shield? It's a target. Machiavelli didn't write for the saints. He wrote for the survivors. He knew that a man who tries to be good in a world full of sharks will be ripped to shreds before lunch. If you want to beat a manipulator, you have to stop looking at the world through a lens of fairness and start seeing it for what it is, a game of leverage. You aren't being cold, you're being awake. Think about that person in your circle who always plays the victim to get what they want. They cry about their bad luck, just as you're about to celebrate your own win, sucking the air out of the room so all the attention lands on them. They want you to feel guilty for succeeding while they struggle. If you stop and comfort them, you've just handed them the remote control to your emotions. Instead of falling for the tears, you agree with the tragedy. You say, "Man, that is a tough break. I'm sure you'll figure it out." And you immediately turn back to your celebration. You don't offer a shoulder, you offer a mirror. By refusing to let their pain derail your progress, you show them their theatrics have no currency with you. They'll find a new audience because you've become too expensive to manipulate. You have to accept that loyalty is usually just a word people use to keep you under their thumb. A toxic boss or a fake friend will scream about loyalty the second you start looking out for yourself. Machiavelli taught us that men change their masters willingly, hoping to find better ones. They aren't loyal to you, they are loyal to the advantage you provide. The second you become more useful to someone else, they'll sell you out for a nickel and a sorry. So you stop being loyal to people who treat you like a resource. Imagine you're in a group project or a business deal where one person is clearly coasting while you do the heavy lifting. They're charming, everyone likes them, and they're planning to take half the credit. You don't blow up and call them lazy. That makes you look like the difficult one. Instead, you compartmentalize. You keep the most vital piece of the work, the final key that makes the whole thing function, on your private drive. When it's time to present, you don't mention their laziness. You simply present the bulk of the work, and then, with everyone watching, you reveal the missing piece as your own personal breakthrough. You've made it impossible for them to claim your labor because you've branded the most important part with your own name. You didn't argue for credit, you engineered a situation where it couldn't be stolen. The world is full of people who will try to use your good name against you. They'll say, "I thought you were a kind person," or "A real friend wouldn't do this." This is a trap designed to make you choose between your interests and your image. Machiavelli knew that a prince who worries too much about his reputation for kindness will eventually lose his power. If someone tries to use your reputation to force you into a bad deal, you lean into the villainy. When they say, "I thought you were better than this," you look them in the eye and say, "I guess you thought wrong." You take the bad guy label and wear it like armor. Once they realize they can't shame you into submission, they lose their only weapon. You aren't playing for most popular. You're playing to win. To survive the sharks, you have to be two people at once. You need the raw power of the lion to scare off the wolves, but you need the cold-blooded cunning of the fox to spot the traps before they snap shut on your ankle. Toxic people thrive on traps. They don't come at you with a sword. They come at you with a favor, a secret, or a misunderstanding. These are just invisible cages. A fox doesn't get caught because he knows the scent of the hunter better than the hunter knows himself. Machiavelli taught us that the lion cannot defend himself against snares, and the fox cannot defend himself against wolves. Therefore, you must be a fox to discover the snares, and a lion to terrify the wolves. If you're only a lion, you're too loud and too easy to trick. If you're only a fox, you're too small to finish the fight. Think about that person in your life who constantly gaslights you. They say something insulting, and when you call them out, they look at you like you're losing your mind and say, "I never said that. You're being paranoid." That's a trap. They want you to doubt your own eyes so they can become the narrator of your life. The lion in you wants to roar, to scream the truth, and to demand an apology. But the fox knows that an apology from a liar is just another lie. Instead of arguing about what was said, you pull out your phone. The next time you deal with them, you keep a paper trail. You summarize the conversation in a text or an email immediately after. Just to clarify, you said X and Y, so I'll be doing Z. When they try to deny it later, you don't get angry. You don't roar. You simply show them the message and walk away. You've replaced their reality with hard evidence. You didn't win an argument. You killed the game. Being a fox means knowing that information is the only currency that matters. Toxic people love to hoard info or spread rumors to keep you off balance. They want to be the source. If you have a friend who always tells you what other people are saying about you, realize they aren't your informant. They are a double agent. They are feeding you poison to see how you react so they can report back to the others. The lion would confront the others and cause a scene. The fox feeds the double agent a fake secret. You tell them something slightly embarrassing but harmless about yourself, something you don't actually care about. Then you wait. When that fake secret comes back to you from someone else, you know exactly who the leak is. You don't make a scene. You just stop giving that person anything real. You let them keep carrying your trash to the enemy while you keep the gold for yourself. Machiavelli said it's better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. In the world of manipulators, being loved usually just means you're easy to use. When you're sweet and accommodating, you're just a buffet. You have to show your teeth occasionally, so people know there's a cost to crossing you. Imagine a boss who keeps piling work on you while others stay late to scroll on their phones. They do it because they know they can count on you. That's code for you're the easiest to bully. The lion move isn't to quit in a huff. The fox move is to become unavailable for the low-value tasks while becoming essential for the high-value ones. When they ask for that extra report on a Friday afternoon, you don't say you're busy with personal plans. That gives them a chance to judge your priorities. You say, I can do that, but it means the CEO's project won't be finished until Tuesday. Which one is the priority? You've forced them to take the risk. If they say your work is the priority, you've won. If they say the CEO's is, you've escaped the extra work. You aren't saying no. You're making yes too expensive for them to afford. The fox also knows when to play dead. Sometimes the best way to beat a manipulator is to let them think they've already won. If someone is trying to bait you into a public meltdown to make you look unstable, the fox becomes a statue. They insult you. They poke at your insecurities. They wait for the explosion. You give them nothing. You look at them with a blank, bored expression. You let the silence hang in the air until it becomes awkward for them. When you don't react, they have to keep pushing, and eventually they look like the aggressor. They trip over their own feet trying to get a rise out of you. By refusing to play the part they wrote for you, you've broken their script. You've shown that you aren't a puppet, and they don't have the strings. Most people are afraid to be the bad guy, but the fox knows that being the good guy is often just a death sentence. You have to be willing to use the same tactics they use, but with more discipline. If someone is using guilt to keep you in a one-sided relationship, you don't explain why you're leaving. Explanations are just meat for a fox to chew on. You just leave. You become the predator. You stop caring about their feelings because you realize they never cared about yours. You learn to recognize the scent of a trap from a mile away, and instead of walking into it, you circle around and watch the person who set it fall in themselves. You win by being smarter, colder, and faster. The biggest mistake you can make with a toxic person is trying to win an argument. Arguments are for losers. When you go back and forth with a manipulator, you are handing them the keys to your head. They don't want to reach a resolution. They want to see you sweat. They want to see your face get red and hear your voice shake. To them, your emotion is a trophy. Machiavelli knew that a wise leader doesn't fight every battle that comes his way. Sometimes the most devastating move you can make is to simply disappear from the conversation. You don't give them your energy, because your energy is what keeps them alive. You become a mirror, cold, flat, and reflecting nothing but their own desperation back at them. Think about that family member or friend who always waits for a public setting to take a dig at you. They bring up a past mistake or a personal weakness just as everyone is laughing. They want you to get defensive so they can say, "Relax, it was just a joke. Why are you so sensitive?" If you argue, you lose. If you explain, you lose. The solution is the stone face. You don't laugh and you don't get angry. You look at them with total silence for 3 seconds, long enough to make the rest of the room feel the awkwardness. Then you turn to the person next to you and ask a completely unrelated question about the food or the weather. You have just withdrawn your presence from their play. By refusing to even acknowledge the hit, you've made their joke fall off a cliff. You didn't fight them, you deleted them. Withdrawal isn't about running away, it's about starving the enemy. A toxic person is like a fire. They need oxygen to keep burning, and your reaction is that oxygen. If they send you a 3-paragraph text filled with insults and lies, and you spend an hour crafting the perfect rebuttal, you've already been conquered. You've let them dictate how you spend your time. Machiavelli noted that it is much more secure to be feared than to be loved, but he also warned against being hated, and nothing breeds hatred and obsession like a constant back-and-forth struggle. To beat them, you send a one-word reply. Okay. Or better yet, you don't reply at all. You let their words sit in the digital void. They will send more texts, getting angrier and more frantic, trying to find the button that makes you jump. By staying silent, you prove that they no longer have a finger on that button. You have withdrawn your spirit from the conflict, leaving them to punch the air until they exhaust themselves. Imagine you're in a relationship where the other person uses the silent treatment to punish you. They want you to crawl back, apologize for things you didn't do, and beg for their attention. Most people crumble here because they hate the tension, but a student of Machiavelli knows that the silent treatment is a game of chicken. The person who speaks first loses. Instead of begging, you enjoy the silence. You go out, you see friends, you finish that project you've been putting off. You act as if their silence is a gift of peace rather than a punishment. When they realize their ultimate weapon isn't causing you any pain, they will be forced to break the silence themselves to regain control. By withdrawing your need for their validation, you've flipped the power dynamic. You aren't waiting for them to let you back in. They are waiting for you to notice them again. Strategic withdrawal also means knowing when a bridge isn't worth crossing anymore. We often stay in toxic situations because of sunk cost. We've put in so much time that we feel we have to make it work. Machiavelli would tell you that's a fool's errand. If a city is under siege and the walls are crumbling, a smart general doesn't stay to die for a pile of rocks. He moves his army to better ground. If you have a friend who constantly drains your bank account or your mental health, you don't gradually distance yourself. You stop the flow immediately. You don't give them a closing speech. You don't give them a chance to pull you back in with a fake apology. You just stop being there. The ultimate way to beat a manipulator is to make yourself a ghost. You don't owe them an explanation for why you're protecting yourself. When you withdraw strategically, you aren't being weak. You are being expensive. You are saying that your peace of mind has a price tag that they can no longer afford. You win by being the one who can walk away without looking back, while they are left standing in the dust of the drama they created, wondering where their target went. Most people cringe when they hear the word cruelty. They think it means being a bully or a monster. But in the real world, the most cruel thing you can do is let a toxic person hang around and drain your life for years because you're too nice to cut the cord. Machiavelli talked about cruelty used well. He meant doing the hard thing once, decisively, so you don't have to keep doing it forever. If you have to cut off a limb to save the body, you don't do it with a butter knife over 6 months. You do it with an axe in one swing. In the streets, this means when it's time to go, you go. No long goodbyes, no one last talk, and no second chances that they'll just use to stab you again. Think about that friend who always brings drama into your life. They're the one who spreads rumors, accidentally lets your secrets slip, or makes you feel like garbage every time you hang out. You've had 5 deep talks with them about how they hurt your feelings. They cry, they apologize, and then 3 days later, they're doing the exact same thing. You think you're being a good person by sticking by them, but you're actually being cruel to yourself. The cruelty used well move is the absolute ghost. You don't send a long text explaining your boundaries. You don't give them a chance to cry and manipulate you back in. You just block the number, delete the socials, and stop showing up where they are. When people ask what happened, you don't badmouth them. That just keeps the drama alive. You just say, "We're not in touch anymore," and move on. By being cruel enough to shut the door completely, you've actually been kind to your future self. You solved a 10-year problem in 10 seconds. Machiavelli noted that injuries should be done all at once, so that being felt less, they offend less. If you're a manager or a leader and you have a toxic person poisoning the team, don't write them up and give them performance plans for 6 months. That just gives them 6 months to plan their revenge and sabotage your business. You let them go today. You make it clean, you pay what you owe them, and you change the locks. It feels mean in the moment, but a week later the air in the office is cleaner, the stress is gone, and the injury is already healing. If you had dragged it out, the whole team would have suffered. One sharp strike is better than 1,000 paper cuts. Imagine someone in your life who keeps trying to use shared history to guilt-trip you. Maybe it's an ex or a former business partner who did you dirty, but now they're back because they need something. They say things like, "After everything we've been through, how can you be so cold?" They are using your memories as a weapon. They want you to feel like a villain, so you'll say yes to their new scheme. The solution is to accept the role of the villain. When they ask how you can be so cold, you don't defend your warmth. You say, "I'm doing what's best for me now. Good luck with everything." You don't offer a hand, and you don't offer an ear. By refusing to let the past dictate your present, you are being cruel to their expectations. But you are finally free. Real cruelty is keeping a dead relationship on life support. If you know a partnership is over, whether it's a job, a friendship, or a romance, staying because you don't want to hurt them is a lie you tell yourself to avoid a hard conversation. It's actually more selfish to keep them around when you've already checked out. You're wasting their time and yours. Machiavelli knew that a leader who is too merciful allows disorders to continue, which eventually leads to more blood and ruin for everyone. Be the person who is brave enough to be the bad guy. Break the news, end the contract, and walk away. The world will try to shame you for being cold, but remember, the people calling you cold are usually the ones who can no longer burn you for warmth. When you use cruelty well, you aren't seeking to cause pain for fun. You are seeking to end a cycle of pain for good. You make the hard choice. You take the hit to your reputation for being mean, and you walk into a life where you no longer have to look over your shoulder. You win by being the only person in the room who isn't afraid to say, "Enough." The game doesn't end because you watched a few videos. It ends when you stop being a piece on someone else's board. Machiavelli didn't write his rules for people who wanted to be liked. He wrote them for people who wanted to be left standing. You have to realize that most of the morals people want you to stay nice so they can stay selfish. They want you to stay loyal so they can keep exploiting you. The moment you decide to see the world as it is, a place of power, leverage, and masks, you become dangerous to those who want to control you. The world is yours the moment you stop asking for permission to protect yourself. You've seen the fangs, you've felt the venom, and now you have the antidote. Go out there and play the game better than they ever could. Because in a world full of manipulators, the only thing more powerful than a shark is the person who knows exactly how to swim among them without getting a single scratch. If you're tired of being the person who gives everything and gets nothing but drama in return, it's time to stop playing by their rules. The world doesn't reward the nicest person. It rewards the person who can see through the smoke. If this deep dive into the mind of Machiavelli helped you spot a snake in your own grass, hit that like button and subscribe. We don't do feel-good fluff here. We give you the raw, street-level strategy you need to take your power back and own the board. Drop a comment below. What's the one toxic move you've seen someone use that you're never falling for again? Let's talk about it in the comments. Don't let them keep you in the dark. Ring the bell so you never miss a lesson on how to turn the tables. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your circle tight. See you in the next video.